There exists a type of creature in this world that has been discovered by only a few, but its existence has never been confirmed. We collectively call these creatures unidentified mysterious animals, unconfirmed biological entities, abbreviated as UMA. Hello everyone, welcome to the UMA video series. Humanity, when faced with completely incomprehensible life phenomena, often reacts with subconscious panic. This reflects our instinctive awe toward the unknown, and it is precisely this awe that directly influences the formation of myths and folklore. Even in today's technologically advanced era, many of life's mysteries have been solved, but countless bizarre stories that have puzzled humans since ancient times still await further exploration and discovery. Today, the topic I want to share with you is about a famous vampire-like entity in Brazilian mythology, the Capelobo. Capelobo. The legend of Capelobo is widespread in Maranhão and Para regions of Brazil. It is often described as a type of creature, a giant humanoid-like creature. According to Brazilian historian and folklorist Luís de Camara Cascudo, the name Capelobo derives from the indigenous term cape and the Portuguese word lobo. The former means broken bone, and the latter means wolf, so the name can be roughly translated as fractured wolf. This creature is covered with long, dense fur. Its head features a long, narrow snout, resembling that of an anteater or a tapir. Its lower limbs end in rounded shapes, leaving footprints similar to flat-bottomed marks. Its upper limbs are equipped with sharp claws ideal for capturing prey, depending on the region. Some versions of the story describe it as a creature resembling a tapir, a gaunt creature, or a quadruped resembling a dog, with a grotesque appearance, exuding a strong, foul stench. Legend says this mysterious creature is extremely ferocious, roaming the rainforest night after night, in the depths of the rainforest, feeding on newborn kittens and puppies, with an insatiable appetite. It occasionally even attacks humans, using its hook-shaped nose to suck their blood and brains. People fear it, not just because of its violent nature, but more so for its difficulty to kill. Only skilled and experienced hunters can drive a blade precisely into its soft navel. Although the legend of the Capelobo is very detailed in different regions, it has even given rise to multiple versions. This mysterious creature made its first appearance in written records in the early 20th century, during the 1920s, by a Brazilian geologist and chemist. Silvio de Abreu traveled to Maranhão to investigate the local geography and resources. During his exploration, he documented his findings in a book titled The Land of Buriti Palm Trees. In the book, there is a description. The locals believe that in the forests of Maranhão, especially in the Pindare region, lives a ferocious creature called the Capelobo, a variant of the werewolf, now rarely seen, but many indigenous people have heard its sharp cries and seen its footprints. Canela from the village of Ponto reported that a few days ago, when his son-in-law went hunting, he heard those cries and discovered footprints in the sand left by the creature. Another Timbira indigenous man reported that once, while walking in the Pindare forest, he saw it. It let out a piercing scream and left a round mark resembling the base of a bottle. That day, he entered the forest looking for prey. As he walked, he was suddenly startled by a loud scream. He was terrified, but there was nowhere nearby to hide, so he slipped between some buriti palm trees. At that moment, the creature was gradually approaching his location, wandering aimlessly from one side of the forest to the other, occasionally letting out that chilling scream. Fortunately, the creature did not discover him. Several hours later, he dared to stand up and quickly ran back to the village. He recounted what he had seen to others. He described the mysterious creature as having a human-like body, covered in long, thick fur. Its head resembled a giant anteater, and its legs looked like bottles. The indigenous people said, when this creature encounters a human, it grabs them, pierces their skull, and uses its elongated snout to suck out their brains. Its navel is its weak spot, but it is covered by long fur. This is why the indigenous people are hesitant to use arrows to attack it. Even its most vulnerable spot is hard to strike. in 1947. The aforementioned Dr. Camara Cascudo mentioned in his book Brazilian Mythology and Geographical Art. The Capelobo he learned about was most famous in the Para River Basin, especially near the Xingu River. In this region, the Capelobo is very well known. The legends are so widespread it's almost unbelievable. Almost all the locals know to beware of attacks from the Capelobo. However, what differs is that here people sometimes describe it as a humanoid animal, but more often, it is often described as resembling a South American maned wolf, but larger in size and faster in movement. It has long, black fur and a rounded torso. Its head ends with a long snout, resembling that of a pig or a dog. It emerges at night, wandering around campsites, shacks, and human settlements in the forest. It preys on newborn dogs, cats, and even humans. Then it slices open its prey's carotid artery and drinks the blood. The only way to kill it is by attacking its navel. One of the doctor's assistants, who lived in the Para River Basin for 12 years, defined the Capelobo as the indigenous werewolf. Indigenous people living along the Xingu River said, when they grow old, very old, so old that they lose the sense of life, they would then lose their human form and transform into the Capelobo, continuing to exist in this form. This is described as a spontaneous and intentional transformation. In 2023, Brazilian ecologist Dr. Fabio Dalio published an article in the World Natural Science News Journal, Strange Beings in Amazonian Indigenous Culture. In it, he documented accounts of the Capelobo Muki phenomenon. On January 5, 2019, a 74-year-old Jiruna woman living in the village of Paquacamba claimed that the Capelobo is the reincarnation of elderly indigenous people. One day, many years ago, her grandmother returned home around 4 a.m., shouting, "Capelobo! Capelobo!" She claimed to have seen it near Beak Bridge. The Capelobo screamed and ran in her direction before heading toward the river. Her grandmother told her that wherever the Capelobo walked, it left behind bottle-shaped imprints. There was also a couple in that area. While walking along the road, they heard a piercing scream. The husband responded symbolically to the sound, but the wife immediately stopped him, saying it was the Capelobo. They decided to stop, hiding behind a rubber tree for a while, but nothing appeared, so they returned to the main road. At that moment, they saw a humanoid figure ahead, walking like a normal person. Its long hair covered its backside. Out of fear, they quickly hid back in the forest. At that moment, the Capelobo let out another scream and disappeared deeper into the forest. Afterward, the couple smelled a strong, pungent odor. Later, they both fell ill for a long time because of the smell. Another woman, 46 years old, from La Carica village, named Vieira, claimed the Capelobo lives atop the mountains. He was once an elderly indigenous man. His scream resembles a horse's neigh. He eats people. His claws remain closed. We have seen his footprints and heard the terrifying sounds he makes. A chilling scream. Another 50-year-old villager from the same village shared a similar story and said that an old indigenous man went into the forest alone and never returned. He started eating raw meat and eventually turned into a bloodthirsty beast. From 1994 to 2001, Brazilian ornithologist David Oren organized multiple expeditions into the Amazon rainforest of Brazil, searching for another unknown creature, the mapinguari. He mentioned in his book series The Footsteps of the Rainforest that over the years, he collected reports from 7 hunters claiming to have killed the animal. Although their descriptions of the creature varied slightly, some described it as a bipedal creature, around 2 meters tall, with a strong odor, resembling a giant sloth. Its coarse fur was red, black, or brown. Its mouth resembled that of a donkey or horse. It walked on all fours or stood upright. However, its bipedal movement was clumsy. Its footprints were circular, and it could produce a very loud roar. Dr. David compiled all the hunters' accounts together. This makes it difficult to discern whether these traits belong to the same animal, but his theory suggests that the stories of mapinguari, Capelobo, and other similar sightings may all originate from a surviving medium-sized ground sloth. This species, thought to be extinct, was a large, prehistoric Xenarthran mammal. Ground sloths first appeared around 35 million years ago, during the late Eocene period. They survived until around 12,000 years ago, when they became extinct during the late Pleistocene, along with most other large mammals, due to their close relation to tree sloths but living on land. They are called ground sloths. Animals in the ground sloth family varied greatly in size. The smallest were the size of large cats, while the largest could grow up to 6 meters long and weigh up to 5 tons, comparable in size to elephants. Current research suggests that infectious diseases and human hunting were the primary causes of their extinction. Dr. David presented numerous arguments in his paper. He believed that South America's low population density, combined with its geographical features, allowed some medium and small ground sloths to survive. The inaccessible regions of the Amazon rainforest provide a sanctuary for these rare animals to continue reproducing. However, the issue with this theory is that current paleontological studies indicate that ground sloths were likely herbivores, while some scholars suggest they might have been omnivores. Fossil skeletal structures show that they could not run, and instead relied on other strategies to defend themselves against predators. Although they might be more agile than modern sloths, and might even have some tree climbing ability, overall, they wouldn't be much faster than what we know as sloths. Therefore, the idea of such a creature attacking humans is highly unlikely. Even their ability to catch small mammals, such as cats or dogs, is questionable. As for bloodsucking and brain-eating tendencies, those are even less plausible. In the field of cryptozoology, Capelobo indeed lacks strong independence as a concept. American cryptozoologist George Eberhardt, in his 2002 book, A Guide to Cryptozoology, defined Capelobo as a variant of mapinguari. It represents a regional variation of the mapinguari. They are essentially the same creature. He also mentioned that Capelobo can be directly translated in Portuguese as wolf's cape. Interestingly, American anthropologist Professor Dale Drinan used the term wolf pelt to refer to South America's mythical creatures. Dr. Camara Cascudo, in a 1923 letter to German anthropologist Robert Nitze, suggested that Capelobo might be a variation of the werewolf myth. This likely originates from Brazil's complex pantheon of savage mythology. It was created as a mythical, invulnerable, and fast-moving predator that has always hunted Native Americans and their bravest hunters. By 1947, he still maintained this view. In indigenous stories, Capelobo never befriends humans. It doesn't actively hunt, fish, or cut down trees. It only kills and hunts. It is simply a mythical killing machine. Like mapinguari, they have never left the northern forests of Brazil. They will forever haunt hunters, confuse indigenous people, scare children, but remain untouched by Brazil's broader, more established traditions. From the materials we've analyzed above, we can conclude that documented accounts of Capelobo are exceedingly rare. All records come from oral traditions of local indigenous peoples. Moreover, in most scholarly works, Capelobo is often considered a variant of other derived creatures, such as the mapinguari or werewolf. In fact, some characteristic descriptions are almost universal among Brazilian-derived creatures: unicorn-like roaring, circular footprints, semi-human forms, and so on. These features can also be found in other stories. For example, the Pinguari legend in the Amazon rainforest region, often described as a towering, long-haired humanoid with unicorn-like traits, whose lower limbs are cylindrical, leaving flat, rounded footprints. They emit hypnotic screams, but conversely, descriptions of their snout are vague, differing significantly from Capelobo's iconic long nose. Some might argue that Capelobo is merely a misinterpretation by indigenous peoples of creatures like sloths or anteaters. This conclusion remains the most popular theory about Capelobo among many netizens and content creators today. However, in Professor Abreu's Land of the Palm Tree work, he noted that he interviewed indigenous people to compare animal names they recognized, revealing that these locals' understanding of wildlife was highly profound. They recognize anteaters, they recognize lions, but their understanding of Capelobo is of a strange, incomprehensible creature. So, personally, I believe there is some truth to the existence of Capelobo. First of all, the legendary nature of Capelobo is indeed high. This is also the main reason for skepticism. All the sightings we can find today are accounts passed down from one person to another. I have not found any eyewitness reports directly written by witnesses. This has directly led to a lack of detailed descriptions of the creature's features. This could also be the reason why scholars attempt to explain Capelobo as other unknown creatures. Most online drawings and information depict it as a humanoid anteater. Of course, this image is perhaps more eye-catching. And the reason I say it may exist is because I believe hunters who deal with forests regularly would not describe a dangerous creature without some basis. At least I didn't find any mention of religious or animal worship in the context of Capelobo. It's possible that some features have been exaggerated over time as the legend spread, making it harder for us to understand. But I believe they must have seen something there, something beyond their understanding. Plus, Brazil's primary rainforest is vast enough that in areas untouched by humans, there must still be many undiscovered new species. After all, the unknown always surpasses the known. This is the charm of UMA. Alright, that's all for today's video. Thank you for watching.